Hello everyone, this is our Project 3 Chatbot by Rohan, Matt, Kenneth, HuiDi, and Beck. So our chatbot is called the Holy Spirit Chatbot, and this is our presentation outline. So we're going to talk about our topic and questions, tree and dictionary, our chatbot creation and test plan/survey, the data we collected, and the chatbot demo. So first, I'm going to talk about our topic and question. So the topic we chose is about the Holy Spirit, because in the Trinity we always acknowledge Jesus and the Father, but the Spirit is not commonly acknowledged. However, the Spirit makes it possible for us to be in a relationship with God and with other people. And for the questions we have, is the Holy Spirit God? Will the Holy Spirit ever leave a believer? What do you mean by sealed? What does the Holy Spirit do? What does that mean? What does intercede mean? When/how do we receive the Holy Spirit? And what is praying in the Spirit?
Now we're going to move on to the tree and the dictionary. In our project, there's a 1-question set, a 2-question set, and a 3-question set. In the 1-question set, as you can see, there is one question which the program will identify a key, and then from that, it will give the user an answer. In the 2-question set, when the user asks a question and it has the first key in it, it will spit out an answer. And then if the user decides to ask a follow-up question that has the key in it, then the program will spit out another answer that was related to the first one. And then the 3-question set is pretty much like the 2-question set, but it just has 3 questions instead of 2, so it can go deeper into the topic that the user wants to explore. And then for our dictionary, we formatted the key and then this vertical line and then the answer. That way, when we run the code, we can just split it up and then have the key and the answer together.
Okay, so for step 3, we have our chatbot creation, test plan, and survey. Okay, so for the main steps, we have Python Flask backend, React.js as frontend, and for integration, they're communicated through fetch request. For example, frontend sends data to an SQL database, which is a post request, and backend retrieves that data from the SQL database, which is a GET request. And altogether, course Node.js server allows frontend/backend communication. Oh, and as the graphic suggests, the client, the React creates the input from client, which gives it to course and gives it to Flask, and then altogether sends it to the MySQL. But the reverse also applies. Flask gives its data, the response to course, which gives it to React, which gives it to the client. So for the technology used, we have our frontend hosted on Vercel, backend and MySQL database hosted on Python Anywhere, and of course, Node.js server hosted on Render. And for our data collection, we use Google Forms, and for our pre-development, we use MySQL database, which is where we store all our pre-development data. Okay, so for the React.js frontend, which is the part I'm in charge of, there's only really 2 main sections for the website: the side menu section and the main chat section. So for the side menu section, we just have a new chat button, which when clicked resets the chat log. And for the main chat section, there are multiple components. For example, the input component, which is the text area for input, and when enter is pressed, it calls upon a handle submit function, which takes a state variable called input and updates the state variable chat log. So for the chat box, it simply just loops through each element within chat log and displays them in order. So for the styling of each message and avatar, they're styled depending on whether they have user ID bot or user ID user. Overflow messages can be accessed through scrolling, and when enter is pressed, it will always jump to the latest message. So for my favorite part of the code is definitely the typewriter effect, which is achieved by slowly reviewing the message 53 pixels at a time until completion.
And so here we have the backend code, and we begin by opening the CSV file. And then for each line in the file, we're going to strip the new line character off of the file and use this vertical line character. And each character, everything on the left of the vertical line becomes keys for the dictionary, and everything on the right becomes values for this dictionary, which you'll be using later in the code. In the remove punctuation helper function, If there's punctuation at the end, we just remove the last character. Otherwise, we just return the word. And in process request, we're going to input the request string from the user, and then we will split the string according to the spaces so that we have each of the words as a list. For each word in the list, we remove the punctuation and lowercase it so that it's filtered. And then we check if the word matches the keys in the dictionary discussed earlier. And if it does, then it returns the bot response, which is the value of the dictionary. Otherwise, it returns a sorry message. And then here we have an app route, which is used to communicate to the front end, and there's a URL to it. And for this route, there's get and post, and it takes the user string from the front end through a fetch request. So the fetch request ends up in this Flask request variable, and then from there, it's filtered appropriately as a JSON object. And then if the user string is not exit, then it'll get appended to the query list. And then we also append the bot responses as well to a list. And otherwise, if there is an exit, then the query list is added to the bot response, and bot responses are added to form a log. So it's assembled in this way. And then at the end, we return a JSON object with this bot response. And there's a similar strategy being used here with app routes. And the global keyword is used to edit the local variable that's defined in a global context, to edit locally in the function. And so we return this JSONify as a 201 status showing that everything is working properly. And then similarly, we have class response, which uses the same concept, but we also have SQL entry where we make a connection to the SQL database, and we use cursor to execute an SQL script to insert the user information into the database. And then we reset the server variables and return a 201 status. And then here we have the SQL database retrieval. So on the left, we show the SQL creation script for creating the table. And then on the right, we show an example query just to access the names. And we can identify 10 individual separate testers, 10 or 11 from the list on the right. Finally, we have our test plan and survey, which was to deploy the chatbot, send the links to the friends and family and our users, along with a survey of the experience, and review the chatbot in the SQL database. So we have both the database as well as the feedback questions from the survey. And then we optimize the dictionary.
Hi, my name is Beck, and I'm going to walk you through step 4, gathering data from users. First, for our data collection, we set up an SQL database that meant at the end of every session, the user would be prompted with these questions, which they would answer. After that, we sent them a Google form, which I'll see on the next slide. This first question is, how well did the chatbot seem to grasp your questions and respond accordingly? The average score on this was a 3.3. The average student scored it a 3.3, the average Christian scored it a 3, the average non-Christian a 3.4, and the average adult a 3.5. The next question is, how satisfied are you with the chatbot helping you understand the Holy Spirit? The average student scored this a 3.67, the average Christian a 3.5, the average non-Christian a 3.25, and the average adult a 4. This had an average score of 3.605. The last question was, how human does the chatbot speak and respond? This had an average score of 3.35. The average student scored it a 3.67, the average Christian a 3.5, the average non-Christian a 3.75, and the average adult 2.5. Next, you guys are going to see the demo.
So this is our Holey chatbot application, and we can start the demo with this question. Will the Holy Spirit ever leave a believer? And in here, there'll be the word sealed. So we can ask a follow-up question. What do you mean by sealed? So this will be the two-part question demo, and the answer is shown below. And now we're going to exit the chatbot, and we're going to show the questions for user data collection. So the name, the email, the age, and then we can say, are you a Christian? And then are you part of the class? I said yes, and that's the end of the demo. We can also click new chat, and we see that it is all clear. Thank you for listening to the demo and the presentation.